Okay, guys. Now this is the after show. What'll happen is that 45 minutes of that will be they'll take the audio and make the podcast out of it. Now we'll do about 5, 10, 15 minutes on video
Hmm.
for the YouTube channel. So I've got questions, Seth.
Okay, fire
Um,
away.
yes. What upsets you most about married life, besides the aforementioned your wife leaving 3
Yeah,
seconds on the
besides the
microwave?
microwave. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the one of the other big pet peeves that I have is, or I guess the fact of married life is that you get with somebody that knows you better than you want to admit, and better than you know yourself. So there are times when she and I will be talking about something, and she'll be like, "Are you upset?" And I will say, "No, no, I'm not upset. I'm fine." When I'm deep down upset, and she will say, "No, I think you're upset." I say, "No, no, I am not upset," and it will escalate to where I am irate, But I try to blame it on her rather than taking the responsibility of starting out upset. So having someone that knows me that well can be very unsettling at times.
Yeah, and my wife has a similar situation in that I am an auditory audio person, a
Mm,
sound person,
yeah.
and I can tell just by the tension in her vocal cords or the way she
Right.
answers the question.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's really simple, like, "Well, I'm not mad about that,"
Yeah.
which means there is obviously something
Yeah.
else.
And now it's the guessing game.
Yeah, and she doesn't. No, why? But I just heard you say that.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
it's my first wife, by the way. The one was my high school sweetheart,
Mm,
college sweetheart. Got married. Should never have gotten married. We had nothing in common. But you know what they say: opposites attract. She was pregnant. I
yeah.
wasn't.
Right.
Um, the we were walking on the beach. After the second time we got separated, and she did not want me to be a comedian. She wanted me to be a CPA. She would invest. She would
Mm,
have had me invest the same amount of time I spent at Mike's, open mics,
yeah.
and would have been no problem if I'd been going to school to be a CPA.
Right.
But she came from an insurance background. Family was in insurance. You work 30 years, you get the gold watch, retirement.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so I said to her, "Look, I'll just do open mics. I won't do comedy for a living." And she said, as you mentioned, Seth, she knew me better than I knew myself.
Mm,
She says, "You're lying to me and you're lying to you. You want to be a
mm.
comedian since you're in the fourth grade. You need to go do that. I'll go move in with my folks. We'll get divorced." And
So she was supportive in a way.
yeah, well, yeah, because the kicker was, she goes, "I've seen your act. You don't have what it takes."
Oh
So,
gosh.
which, by the way,
That was
motivated
just
me,
mean spirited.
but it
That's all it
motivated me
was.
for decades.
Yeah. Well,
She
good.
moved. She
There's
moved.
nothing like hate to
Oh
just
God,
drive you forward.
I'll show you attitude.
Oh, yeah.
And
I've
some,
had comedians come up to me and telling me I'll never be a comedian.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, that
Yes, I'll do it.
rage can really work.
Yeah. Wow.
yeah, if you can harness that energy. And somebody, by the way, Seth, we were living in San Diego.
Yeah.
I won the Improv's first annual Funniest Person San Diego contest.
Wow. Congratulations.
Wow.
Oh, thank you. And every time I did something like that, somebody anonymously would take the newspaper article and send it to my ex-wife in Seattle. I have no
No.
idea. I have
Yeah.
no
Who
idea.
did that? Who did that?
I don't know, but not me. But I was thrilled.
Man. That's a true friend right there.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
Well-
it was probably your mother.
Yeah. Yeah, my mom. Yeah, and years later, I bumped into my ex-in-laws.
Uh-huh.
We were living in La Jolla, which is kind of a high-end section of
Yeah.
San Diego. We bought a
Right.
condo for cash, and they said, "So this is how much they didn't get comedy."
Yeah.
Ex-mother-in-law said, "How's that joking thing working out for you?" And I said,
Yeah.
"Well, it's working out pretty well." She goes, "What are you doing in La Jolla?" And I said, "This is the question I was waiting for. This is like a fastball right in the strike zone."
Right.
She goes, "What are you doing in La Jolla?" And I said, "We bought a condo over here in La Jolla Shores for cash." Oh, that's going out of the
Yeah.
park.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Rub it in, why don't you?
Oh man.
Yeah.
That's great.
So I did, by the way, as a young man, I was insufferable, sense of entitlement. So I said to my in-laws, "Look, before we part company, I just want to apologize." And they said, "For what?" And I said, "For the years you knew me between the time I was 16 and 23, because I was insufferable." And they said, "No, you weren't." I go, "Come on. We all know I was." So just,
Yeah.
they go, "We accept the apology," which is closure for me.
Oh, that's funny.
So,
That's great.
how do you you came out as a Mormon on stage?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Well, how do other people perceive? Are you like the Mormon comic or the straight laced comic, or what's the perception?
Yeah, I think I've developed a reputation for being the Mormon, married, clean comic. So those three
There's a
things.
unicorn.
Yeah, yeah, unbelievable. At 32, pretty ridiculous. Yeah, so I think that's the perception. I think the people in my and Zara's generation are a little bit disillusioned with organized religion in general, but are still very spiritual though, which I find very interesting. Right. So there was one show where there was one mic. There was a mic where I did this. It was one of the first times I was, coming out as the Mormon, and there was a very pronounced atheist who I'd seen his act before, and I found him very funny. And after the mic, he came up to me and said, you need to keep doing that, because that is good material. You need to develop it more. There's something definitely there. And he was like, I've tried looking up Christian comics just for a different sort of view of comedy, and like there are not very many good ones in my opinion, right? And
correct.
You need to keep going. So for me, it was a huge answer to this question that I'd had about whether or not I was going to get any traction doing more genuine material, at least for me. So that sort of solidified for me I need to pursue this more.
Oh yeah. Well, I did a show called Bananas. It was a clean comedy show, a Christian comedy show, actually. The thing about Christian comics is if they were comics before they found Christ, and they were good comics before they found Christ, they're usually pretty funny. If they were Christians before they found comedy, not always the case.
Yeah. There's some great YouTube videos of jokes that they tell each other, and it is astoundingly bad.
Yeah.
All biblically based, very insider-ish. It's really phenomenal how bad some of them can be.
Well, and Bananas, they didn't do their market research. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Zara. Go ahead.
Oh, I just said, what's the deal with Noah's Ark?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and I've got bigger complaints about the Bible than that, by the way. Well, there's no practical advice. There's no mention the world's not flat. There's no mention you should put the well above the outhouse, not below the outhouse. You think if God knows everything, He would certainly know that's the way you keep people from getting,
Yeah. That's not why you're reading the book, though. You're not reading the book for hygiene.
Yeah, I just feel sorry for, what is it, Lot? Where's my wife? Well, I hope you don't have high blood pressure. She's that pillar of salt over there.
Well, maybe she was a terrible wife, Maybe he was like, oh, did I hear something behind? Can you look? Check that out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or Lazarus. You don't think he was upset when he came back from the dead? I'm sure his job was gone, and already hit the funeral. What are you doing here? You're dead.
Girlfriend had moved on. Yeah, exactly.
Oh my gosh.
No, the Bananas comedy show, that was a Christian comedy show. Well, there's 26 weeks in a season on a regular television season. And at the time, there's only like 32 Christian comics. So I get to the end of the end of the first season, and they end of the second season realizing, wait a minute. So I got a call from Taylor Mason.
Yeah.
Who goes, look, Frank, here's the deal. It's a Christian comedy show, but now what they're looking for is clean heathens. So, because I could do an hour of clean comedy, and there aren't that many comics can do. Comics can do an hour of clean comedy. Yeah. Well, the only problem for me was that during the production, they said, do you want to testify? Somebody warned me they're going to ask you to testify. And so they said, listen, it's a Christian comedy show. Do you want to testify? And I said on camera, look, you get me a grant of immunity, and I'll tell you whatever you want to know. So
that's not what we meant.
No, that's not what they meant.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, but as I am proud of you for doing that. I think your atheist friend is correct, because you have chosen you on stage. Yeah. Everything you write and perform, you don't have, it's organic. It's either fits or it doesn't. So that's So now there must be something silly about the Mormon culture. Come on. I've read I'm gonna get Krakauer's book, and it's just chock full. is Eden really
Yeah.
in Missouri somewhere?
Yeah, Anamondiaman. Is that what
Yeah.
you're
What about
referencing?
Planet Zot? That's what I want to know. What's all with
Oh, Planet Zod. I haven't heard of that actually. There's Kolob. Have you heard of Kolob?
Oh, that's the planet.
Yeah,
That's the one. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, by the way, every religion has its.
Oh, yeah. It's
People said
quirks
to
and
me,
it's weird things.
the Mormon religion is weird. I go, wait a minute, wait. Every religion to people outside of the religion.
Yeah.
I'm Episcopal, and every week we eat the flesh and drink the blood of Christ. Now you can't tell me, it's almost vampirish.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean,
Yeah.
every religion from the outside looking in has its
Incredibly morbid. Yeah.
quirks. So
Yeah,
I'm sure.
for sure.
I'm sure you. Have you ever done a show just for Mormons where you did your Mormon? You poked a little fun at the Mormon church. Is that?
I have not yet. I have invited a lot of. So a big reason I started doing a clean comedy show, producing it, and inviting comics to come try and do clean comedy, and develop their material, for late night TV auditions or whatever it is. A big reason I started doing that show is because I was inviting, members of my church to the Comedy Store or to the Ice House to see me perform at these other shows. And they would come away and say, some of them would be like, yeah, that was, all of it was fine. But most would say, your stuff was fine. Your stuff was good. But the rest of it made us really uncomfortable. So yeah, I started. So a lot of my clean comedy shows are in front of a lot of members of my church, but it's not exclusively members of my church.
And what do you got? What's silly about the Mormon church that that you've worked into your act?
I think the name, how long it is ridiculous. And so I will, I'll say the full name on stage, and then I've started talking about doomsday stuff because it's the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So every Sunday it was sort of like, well, we might not be here tomorrow. Jesus could come back at any moment. But you got to still do all your stuff. So it's like grade school. I think about grades, tests. What's the point? What's the point of all of this? And my parents telling me to clean my room. Why? Because Jesus might clean it up tomorrow. Might come and take care of everything.
I might get raptured out of here. You never know.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I'll talk about that aspect of it.
So we have the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and then we have the Jews. Okay, now that's a group that knows how to name.
Yes, that's right. Exactly. That's the way to go.
Is twice as long, and is still.
Yeah, ridiculous.
Islam. What is it, 5 letters? Islam.
Yeah, very, very short.
Yeah.
Well, Joseph Smith said, if a religion doesn't require everything of you, then what's the point? So,
but not every letter in the alphabet.
I mean, if you can't even say the name of the church, you're not being saved.
Okay, now I've been to Salt Lake. I got to tell you, it's a lovely spot.
Yeah.
But I'm flying in, looking down. I'm thinking somebody came across that mountain range, looked down at this, and thought, "This is the promised land."
That's right.
I guess his followers were like, "Where are those magic glasses when you need them?"
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I imagine Joseph didn't know it was a Salt Lake when he said that. I'm just guessing.
Yeah, I don't know. So Brigham Young ended up leading all of the people into Salt Lake.
Oh, see how much I know about religion. Whoops.
Yeah, so Joseph Smith was martyred in Nauvoo. Yeah, when most of the saints were still in Nauvoo, in Missouri. So,
okay.
Yeah.
So he got out early.
Yeah, he got out early, and then Brigham Young took over and led the Exodus out and ended up in Salt Lake. So there's a lot of sort of cultural stuff about how similar the Salt Lake area is to ancient Israel.
Yes, I would
the
give you
Dead
that.
Sea and Jordan River, all of that. So.
Oh yeah, and it's it's beautiful in its own. Utah's beautiful in its own way.
Yeah.
I've driven quite a bit.
I'm sure there are a lot of Mormons in California because it was like, what? We could have just kept going and hit this paradise? Come on.
Malibu? Wait a minute.
Yeah.
There are Mormons all over the world. I've got friends from Samoa. You guys do you're like Amway.
Yeah. I mean, if you don't know a guy, I can get you in touch. Bring 3 friends. You'll be promoted.
Exactly. It's an Amway without soap. So fears. Were you afraid when you went on stage the first time? I mean, you'd done the improv at the Comedy Sports, so you had a kind of introduction.
Yeah, but stand-up has always scared me. At least when I still get nervous before every show. But yeah, I was terrified to do stand up and still get nervous to do it. But yes, it was terrifying. The first few mics that I did in front of complete strangers at good nights were, horrendously bad. Just awful. Voice shaking, hands shaking, the whole thing. Sweating profusely. Just terrible. And I hate when comics are like, oh no, my first time was really great. Liars. That's what I hate.
Well, Seth, I got to tell you,
I believe that it
first
works
time.
out for some people.
Yeah, well, I was older, so I'd been working on it my entire life,
Sure.
and I knew in my heart that every time I drove by the comedy store, I felt this magnetic pull, and I went in and watched. I tell young comics, go in and watch a couple open mics, see how bad 75% of them are, and that gives you the courage to get up and
Sure.
you're probably thinking you're probably funnier than they are, and you probably are. So
Sure.
So do you have a podcast?
Yeah, I've started one. It has not aired yet. I'm trying to get a few episodes under the belt before issuing it, so I don't have to do it every single week. But yeah, it's going to be called Disorganized Religion. So I'm going to have comics on, talk about their history with comedy, their history with religion or divinity, or the lack thereof. Yeah.
I was going to say, maybe, Zara and I can
I've had Zara on one episode. We're going to redo it. She was not satisfied with her representation of the Islam faith, as I gathered. So I ended up asking incredibly nerdy, specific questions, and gave her no warning whatsoever. So we're gonna redo it.
Yeah, I'm setting up and everything like that.
Yeah, and she's gonna have an imam there.
Yeah, right, ready to go. Well, see, my problem is, and what I realized with Zara is that most of the people I had been prepping for with this podcast no longer affiliate with a religion, and so they don't really care how they talk about their own religion because they don't like it that much.
Yes.
But with Zara, who still cares very deeply for her religion, it is a very high precious, and I was not sensitive to that fact, and I should have been, because that's the way I am about my religion, right? I don't want to say anything that's wrong or incorrect. I'd like to represent it correctly. So.
No, and by the way, on a final note, I am delighted that you find great comfort in your religion as Zara does in hers. I think, we can certainly agree to disagree on religion, but if it gets you through the night, if you're four square and it does what it needs to do for you, then I'm delighted.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's I go to, like I said, I go to church with this older woman who's an Episcopal, and I eat the flesh of Christ and drink his blood every week.
Yeah.
So who am I to talk about?
Yeah, right. The craziness. I mean, we do the same thing. We don't believe in the transubstantiation like Catholics do, but representative, it's a similar idea.
And here's the thing about Catholics. Okay, if the Pope is infallible, explain that hat.
Fashion, a sin.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, you and your mom have been delightful.
Well, thank you so much for having us on.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks for coming on the show.
Yes, our first mom and son combination. We'll have to do this. And I would love to come on your show, Seth, at some point when, as I'm sure Zara would as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be in touch for sure.
All right. Well, thank you for staying with us for the Suicide Prevention Punchline after show. This will go up on YouTube. When it posts as a podcast and on YouTube, we'll let you guys know. So, Seth, you can share it with your social media. Mom, you can, I guess, Hotmail or whatever. Yeah. I've never been so happy to be at a distance and do this because I know I'd have gotten slapped in the back of the head by your mom. Not my child. Not my child, but I'll tell you.
I will say this. She has come millions of miles away from where we started. The first time we logged on to AOL, I will tell you, we sat down and she said, I need you to help me get on the internet. I said, great. We turned on the computer and I said, okay, now first thing you want to double click on this. And she said, wait, slow down. And I looked over and she had a notepad, pen, and the first step she wrote down was turn on computer. And I thought, this is not.
No.
This is too many steps.
Oh, Jeremy.
So she is millions of years away from where she was.
That's terrific. Well, Mom, nice meeting you. Seth, a pleasure meeting you. Thanks for being kind
Thank
to
you.
my,
You too.
my friend Zara, because, some comics aren't. And that better never happen in my presence because I'm crazy. You guys know that.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Frank.
Thank you both so much.
Hey, guys, that's the Suicide Prevention Punchline After Show. Thanks again, guys.
Thank you. Now I can push the button.